I think right now the most common thing I'm getting asked about specific speakers is, what's it like with YouTube? Is there much of a lag? Now, Bluetooth lag latency synchronization is quite a long and complicated subject. Sorting out sync with video, of course, is not the same as sorting out latency with gaming. And again, doesn't really matter so much with audio. Each of them has specific reasons why you wouldn't want much latency with gaming. You're going to miss your shot. But with video, there's an opportunity there to synchronize no matter what the lag is between the video and the audio. And again, with audio only, it doesn't really matter what the latency is, because you're going to hear the audio anyway. Now, in theory, we're in the era of low latency in terms of, depending on your codec, 30 to 45 milliseconds. Now, they say people aren't really that sensitive to sync issues until you hit about 80 milliseconds. And again, I'm talking about audio and video being in sync. I'm not talking about latency when it comes to gaming, where there's no opportunity to sync your video to your audio or whatever, to whatever Bluetooth device you're actually using, because it's all done in real time. So in this video, just as a general guide, I'm going to do a mobile test with 17 of my most popular speakers. I'm going to do a YouTube test, and at the end I'm going to follow up with an MX player just to compare the results. But most people are concerned about YouTube. Now, I've got to say, Bluetooth, lag, latency, sync, whatever, is very device, hardware, software specific. So this is my scenario on my Samsung S10 plus, the app, my YouTube app running on that phone, and these speakers. Your results on YouTube may be different. Different phones are well known for having widely different sync issues. But it will give you an idea of the sort of Bluetooth latency, lag, whatever I am personally getting. I don't know why we're still getting lag on video, because the A2DP profile allows for communication between end device and the sending device. So the sending device knows how long that Bluetooth chain, which is long, complicated, encode multiple steps of buffers, encoding, decoding, compressing, decompressing, but it should know how long that processing is taking, sends the information back to the sending device, should be able to sync up video, in theory, with the audio. Obviously, it doesn't happen in reality, and we do get bad sync issues with some speakers. So I'm going to just do my test, what I'm actually getting on my particular device speakers, my profile. It's my experience basically, and your result may be very different. I'm testing it by playing a sync test video on YouTube, 50 frames per second, which means each one of my frames will be 20 milliseconds apart, so it should be accurate to within 20 milliseconds. However, it should be pointed out as well, over a period of time, Bluetooth, lag, sync, latency, etc. will vary, even with the same speaker and the same phone. But this gives you a guide to what I'm getting, and hopefully gives you an idea of which speakers are going to be better or worse for YouTube. So I'm saying each frame will be 20 milliseconds, so I can see where the audio starts and where it should have been in sync. On this particular video, when the white line gets to the diamond in the middle, at that specific point, if it was in sync, you would hear the beep, plus or minus 20 milliseconds. Reality is, it could vary a lot more. If you're playing a long video, it comes and goes. It can be 20, 40, 60 milliseconds difference between where you're actually playing it. But I've done this a few times. This is a good guide to my results. YouTube sync comparison clip. You will of course need to listen to this clip via wired speakers or headphones, or indeed from your device itself. You need to be lag free to get the benefit of this video clip. So if we take that really literally, you best bet for YouTube, using the YouTube app. If you're on a Samsung S10 phone, other phones will be quite different. JBL Flip 4, the worst 300 milliseconds, and the Minirig Mini Mark II, and the Soundcore Motion Plus, ha ha ha, yes, still one of the best speakers, even for YouTube. Sync issues come in 80 milliseconds. Now, what does that mean in reality? They do say the breaking point is normally, for most people, is around 150 milliseconds. Below 150 milliseconds, it's not that much of an issue in noticing that lag. Over 150 milliseconds is going to be quite annoying. But you've also got to take into account, while most of these have audio which is delayed, so it's hitting so many milliseconds after you've seen the video frame, because that's what we're talking about, frames here, that the audio should be in line with the actual frame of the video. On the, which I don't have here, the Sony XB40 was the only speaker where the audio was before the actual part of the video where it should have been in sync. And they do say early audio is kind of more annoying than late audio. However, I didn't find it that much difference personally, but just take into account that although it's only, what, it was at minus 100 milliseconds, which technically is within the less annoying end of synchronization issues, it is an early audio. Some people might find that quite annoying. So we're not getting the 45 milliseconds, 32 milliseconds aptX, which those codecs promise. 80 milliseconds though is well within what you would call acceptable, hard to actually perceive. Just to show you what that looks like, the difference between the best tier and the worst tier, this is a clip with some geezer talking about speakers. Just note that if you're playing at low volume, it's going to be a bass heavy speaker. You're going to have to quite like that. But if you play at loud volumes, it's going to be very well balanced, but maybe it's going to be too bass light for you. But I think all round, just note that if you're playing at low volume, it's going to be a bass heavy speaker. You're going to have to quite like that. But if you play at loud volumes, it's going to be very well balanced, but maybe it's going to be too bass light for you. But I think all round. Now, I did also, as I said, use MX Player and measured what the lag was on that. So one is going over the internet, the YouTube app, compared to playing locally the same video off the phone itself, MX Player, and comparing the results. Most of them were pretty much in line with what I was getting from YouTube. One noticeable exception was the Soundcore Motion Plus, which had the biggest difference. 80 milliseconds on YouTube, 180 milliseconds I was getting on MX Player. I'm not sure why, but I did redo it and I got the same result. But otherwise, most of them pretty much in line between the two apps. If you average it all out, because of that result with the Soundcore Motion Plus, my best speaker for consistent video audio has been the Minirig Mark II. The worst of the JBLs, the Charge 4, the Extreme 2, and the Flip 4. Even at 300 milliseconds, it's not a total deal breaker. Obviously, if you're gaming, that's a completely different matter. But certainly under 200 milliseconds is not a massive issue. Depends how sensitive you are to audio sync. So I hope that answered some people's questions. I've now tested all my speakers. These are my results. You're going to get different results using different hardware. Hopefully, although the actual delay may be better or worse, the actual speakers themselves will be the same, relatively speaking. So, Mark II, Minirig Mark II, which is actually my newest speaker, although it's only supporting Bluetooth 4.2, so we may be expecting Bluetooth 5 and aptX speakers, which is actually aptX speakers, to be leading the pack, but it wasn't consistent. In my results, basic codecs were as good as some of the more exotic codecs. Just to say, the Samsung S10 weirdly doesn't support aptX HD, and none of these are supporting aptX low latency. So I hope you found this useful, and thank you for watching.
UK